Well, I think we did it again. We did. Um, so we're back. I'll give it a couple of minutes because we lost everybody. We can actually trim this off later, but I need help and I forget to ask for help. I forget to ask. And this tech stuff is, yeah. Hi, Trev. This, you know, is a little difficult for me. So you're in, Trevor. If you can send that to Adrian, that'd be awesome. Hi, you're back. It's interesting. I was just sitting here feeling my, I was feeling my frustration on this tech stuff. I just really would like somebody that knows what they're doing to help me with this stuff. You know, yeah. There's a lot to do in YouTube and everybody that goes by that even knows a little bit about it. I'm like, hey, could you help? Hey, can you help? Hey, can you help with this? And I know and then I forget during the week. I forget, and I also I kind of trust that God will help. God will, somebody will show up as a result, and yeah, so I kind of forget. So we lost some of the folks that we had that were here. Hopefully they'll drop back in. Yeah. Thanks for coming back, or JR. What was I saying? Where was I? Step one. Yeah. Self-management. Self-management. There you go. That's right. Thanks, Trevor. Self-management is imagine when I have myself as a manager, I'm certainly not going right to the top, am I? And but I think we really have to be convinced and see how sometimes we're running the show, how we're trying to run the show, and some of you know that I have I've been in recovery from addiction, alcoholism and addiction, and so it's blatant for us. It's blatant. It really is. It's like, because for the alcoholic and the addict who's trying to run his own show, it's very difficult. There's Adrian. Hi, Adrian, buddy. And and the alcoholic and the addict can see it clearly because usually his life is on a collision course all the time with situations and people, and there's lots of drama for the alcoholic and the addict, and but tonight I wanted to talk more to folks who aren't obviously living in addiction, who are what we would call normal, and and to ask that question about what we call step one in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step one, the important part of step one isn't that we're powerless over whatever it is that we're dealing with, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or gambling, or porn, or food, or emotions, or all of those things. The important part of step one is that our life is unmanageable by us. And it's a difficult concept because we've been taught since childhood to learn, a lot of tricks so that we can manage our lives. We've been taught by those we trusted to become better managers, and many of us have struggled our whole life, or in my case, most of my adult life and most of my life trying to improve on myself. And and it took me a long time to recognize that it's not just that I'm flawed in some way. It's actually I have all the resources that are available to anybody. To all the resources are here, everywhere around me. This is, and I haven't generally tapped into them. Even just a second. I just want to tell Jennifer that we're back. Even when I think about it, we had a little technical thing. You noticed, Adrian. Thanks to you for letting us know that you couldn't get in, and then we kind of had to shut it all down and start over again. And I'm not the number one tech guy. I think, oh gosh, I'm pretty good for my age. That's my kind of my scapegoat. Say, oh, I'm pretty good for, but and I thought I had it nailed tonight. And anyway, here we are. We've had to dance around a bit. But what I was saying is that imagine that if you were busy in your life and God, however you see him, God is tapping you on the shoulder and saying, I can help. I'm here. Hello. And we're like, hey, leave me alone. I'm busy. Leave me alone. I'm busy. Look, can't you see? I'm trying to run my life here. And he's saying, well, that's actually not your job. Just relax, breathe, slow down and be one with me. And life then flows and we can be in that flow. But most of us, our conditioning has been, I can do it. We've been taught that. You can do it. Power through, white heat of desire. We've been taught all of these things, and yet, and I'm not saying it doesn't mean that we don't focus, but where do we focus? We focus where our intuition, where it leads us. Many of us have spent our lives trying to be good at something we didn't even like. It wasn't, or out of fear because we thought we could make more money here. But we love this. And so instead of working where the love was, we were working over here where we thought the money was. So we missed it. We missed our full potential, our opportunity in life wasn't, because our conditioning has been that we must have the money. We must, take care of our security. We've got to look after our old age. All of these things that we've been programmed to believe instead of, the voice has always been there though. Do what you love, Yeah, I will. As soon as I make enough money that I can afford to do what I love, I will. And so we missed the connection so how do we connect? If you're at a point in your life where you're saying, okay, I want to connect. I'm interested in connecting. um, I, I recognize that that life could be more magical if I wasn't running the show. So that's the point I'm hoping that many of you are at. With my addict and alcoholic friends, it's easier because their lives, if they don't find a spiritual connection, they don't find a spiritual way of living, they generally die, period. I'm with very few exceptions, or they end up in jail. And, um, with very few exceptions, I see it so much. So I'm not talking to them tonight. I'm speaking to folks that are, have been bought into the idea that somehow if we just work harder, if we just read another self-help book, if we just listen to another tape, if we just do another weekend workshop, we can become a better manager. And honestly, there's been, that's the foundation of most of the self-help world. Is to let's help you get to a place where you can be a better manager. And I'm saying that even though, yes, learning lots about the world is helpful, if we're plugged in each day, if we're plugged in each moment, if we're living in a conscious connection with the moment, with God, with, in a not knowing, in an adventure, life is so much more fulfilling. We're fulfilled because we're actually living life. Life is living us instead of us trying to tell life what we want. Good luck. Good luck. So, and we can bullshit ourselves. We can say, yeah, but I do love this. And maybe you do. Maybe you do. Maybe, maybe you found your passion, and yet for some reason the inspiration doesn't come. For some reason, it's your passion. It's art, or it's music, or it's sports, or it's, but for some reason, the tires are spinning. And I think that no matter what we're doing in life, it doesn't really matter if we're not connected, if we're not feeling the oneness with God. We don't have, what was Da Vinci? I'm going to suggest that, some of the great artists, who I like to think of as Sting, just a regular guy. But in the times that I saw him, he had this connection, and so lots of us, when we make the connection and we feel the connection. So I think that the most important thing in life, if there isn't, is to seek this, this kingdom of heaven, and everything else comes after that. And we think, generally, we've been told that our happiness, our peace, our contentment comes from making, being successful in the material plane. But the material plane is within the it's inside of this moment. It's a and it, although we have mastery in the material plane because we are especially when we're really connected, when the I don't think it can be, if it's really important, if we're attached to the results, we lose the connection. That's my experience. And so, I know this is that we get together to meditate, and we're going to meditate. Hey, Milt. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Kathy. If you guys have any questions or any thoughts, please mention them. And we're going to meditate for a few minutes. And the thing with meditation, as as I've been, oh, look at that. The thing with meditation is the longer I've been, especially spending time with Mooji, and is that the less important, in a way, it seems to be, because I recognize that meditation, it helps me just to see that I'm not, the noise that's going on, the chatter that's going on in my head. And again, this week, there were several times when it just shut off. And so I've recognized that there isn't anything defined, but when the noise level goes down, this presence is there. He's always there. And so there's nothing to find. So with meditation, we do get to see, we get to quiet the mind a little bit. We get to see that it's not, we're not our minds. We're the chatter that goes on for me. It's just, it just runs on its own. And so I am less and less attached to it, and the less and less attached I am to it, the more it drops away. And with and the more I recognize how it has been, in a way, well, I can't trust it. It's lied to me. It's lied to me, but it did its best. It believed. It's always believed. My mind has always believed that I had to make this thing work. And now I recognize that that's impossible at the level that I'd like to live at, to make life work. The bar is so low. The bar is so low. As you go deeper into this awareness and this connection, you will see what I mean. It's just like, are you kidding? I was, scratching out I was like a chicken scratching out in the chicken yard, in a way. The bar is very low. Anyway, enough of my going for a moment. Adrian, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing well today, David. Thank you.
I'm glad you made it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you're here. Should we meditate for a bit? Nice. I want to share something just for a second, just coming that my old conditioning was that if I'm running at about a third of my regular, what I used to run speed wise, like, and I know that at one time in my life, I would have considered myself not very productive or lazy. And now it's just like, it seems like there's nothing needs to get done anymore. Nothing, you know what I mean? It just flows. The phone rings, somebody buys something online, whatever. It just, I haven't had to do anything. And what a beautiful way. But there's a little panic sometimes that comes up that, you know, in the thinking that, oh, I'm going to, you know, my life isn't going to be full enough in some way, or that I'm going to miss something. And it's almost laughable. It's an old part of the old conditioning, you know, that that still wants me to run the show. But what a beautiful day I had today. You know, I just got up and and things flowed. Um, I was going to share this with you guys. I need to buy a car, I guess. I think. And on the weekend, I was at Canes, where I've been selling tickets in the raffle for Fresh Start, which is just a blast. And having fun down there and meeting all kinds of exciting people. And this lady was there, and she had parked right in front of our little tent where we have our Harley Davidson that we're selling tickets. And she parked right in front, and she came in the way in. She stopped and bought a ticket. On the way out, she stopped and bought another ticket. And um, and we talked and connected, and she went to get in her car, and it's a little Ford Escape. And this thought came, or a message, that's the car. And so she was already in the car and about to back out, and I went and tapped on her window, and I said, how do you like your little Ford Escape? It was in like a 2012. It's older, you know. And she said, I love it. And I said, is it for sale? and I've had, anyway, that's, you know, I just followed the intuition, you know, I just followed the thread. And she said, well, no, not really, but my mom has one that's a year older, and I think she wants to sell it. and and her mom drove up yesterday from Lethbridge, and we went over and looked at that car today. And we were driving over there, and Trevor said, how much do they want for it? I said, I don't know. He said, well, he was with me. Do you have the money? And I said, well, I don't know. You know, I'm just following the trail. You know, and it was just beautiful. I got there, we looked at her car. It's a beautiful car. I don't know if that's going to be the car, but it's beautiful to live in a not knowing. You know, we stood in the front yard with this young lady and her mom. You know, her mom's like in her 70s, and it was anyway. We had a nice connection, and she didn't know what it's worth, and I don't know what it's worth, and we were both quite honest with each other that we just didn't. I don't know. It's the first one I've looked at. I didn't even know. You know, I'm on a need to know basis, right? And from with God, and I call him my new employer. And so it's just, I'm just sharing with you that we can live in the flow. We really can live in the flow. And if we're paying attention or being conscious or aware in each moment, we can go where we're directed. And if we, as time goes on, we begin to trust, you know, begin to recognize that there is a, you know, a plan, if you will. I mean, that's not really the right word, but there's a flow in life, and if we're in the flow, it's magical. You know, you can actually say, I don't know, you know. And I want to tell you another quick story. I once married this lovely lady, and she used to plan things months in advance, and have a calendar even into next year, and with things, and like I don't know what I'm doing really next week. I kind of do, because I know I'm going to go visit my grandkids, but I don't really know. That's the plan in the moment, and we'll see how that unfolds. But I've never lived by a calendar, and it's beautiful to let go of that. You know, even if we do have dates in the calendar, to just hold them really lightly, to recognize that you know, things can, will, and do move in a flow. And if we're open to the flow, we get more included in that flow, and life becomes easy. Easy is a good word, eh, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, life is sometimes easy and sometimes hard or whatever. But I think the attitude is very important. No?
I think if we're in this flow, there's less struggle.
Yeah, it's just like then if it's hard, then it's just also part of the flow, and then but the flow keeps going, so it also will change. So it's not so the mind can't grab onto anything so hard and dramatize it so intensely,
Mm-hmm.
cause so much suffering and struggling with what's happening. Like and sometimes it does that, and it just because it wants something to be different, and
Well,
then
yeah,
it's okay.
and hey, V, um, the whole idea for me in step one is to surrender, to watch that. Often, when what my mind wants is out of what my mind wants is often out of fear. My
Fear is
mind
like, yeah.
makes up that it's not going to get something, so it will hold on to something or fight for something because it's afraid. And my conditioning, and maybe I'm more extreme in this than some, but my conditioning has been that from the mind, that I'm not going to get enough, or that I'm not good enough, or that there isn't enough in the planet, and when I'm in God's flow, and then those thoughts don't even appear. you know I still can't say that I'm always that way with money. I you know and so, because sometimes I I'm I'm a little contracted around money, but I'm aware of it, and my intent is to be more expanded and more trusting in God's flow around money. There isn't anywhere that this thing that we call God isn't, including in the flow of money, or it's all one, it's all there. And it's only my restrictive thinking that keeps things. So but I can't change my thinking. I've realized that if I focus on changing my thinking, then I'm mucking around in the mechanics again. And if I just focus on God's will for me in each moment, then and stay in that flow, you know, and recognize, have money, don't have money, doesn't really matter. It's not my business. It's a
Well, I don't know. I think, for example, the example that you use with the car. And, I can appreciate that example, but, God also made the internet and gave us the ability to Google what a car is worth.
well, I'll do that.
Like,
Yeah,
so I think,
I'll do that. My
yeah,
intuition today wasn't to go there with a number
I see.
anyway.
It wasn't the time for it.
No, it
Right.
was my
Okay. Well,
intuition was to go and meet these ladies.
right.
And
Just fill it out first. Then.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah. It wasn't transactional yet. Yeah.
no, it was just like, okay, let's go have a look,
Right.
and and,
Cool. Let's
and
go
see
fill
what
it out.
see
Very
what's
cool.
here, see what wants to happen,
Right.
and I was also watching the mind, because mind says, well, you only have X amount of dollars. What if she wants more? You know, and I just tell it, well, that's not my business right now. Just
Right.
just
Well, and even if she did want more, what if you know what the X amount of dollars you have, then if there's no fear in saying, I guess it's not aligning because this is how much money you have, and maybe she says, actually, money isn't that important to me, or I don't need it. And then
sure, yeah,
like that, I've seen
yeah,
this happen before, and I think sometimes when we just kind of put aside all of these, like you said, all the mind stuff, and just stay kind of in the the honesty of the situation without expectation, without going like, well, I'll use that as a negotiating tool,
No,
just that's
and,
my
and
situation. What's your situation? Okay.
yeah, we had a nice chat and we talked about grandkids, and it was just a nice visit. It's actually a beautiful little car, and I'd love to have it. And I was like, okay, and hardly gave it another thought.
Yeah, really nice.
After that.
Yeah.
V, you have to turn your Facebook down.
Facebook?
Yeah. There's an echo with it. Thanks, bud.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I forgot my phone was on.
Hi, V.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
How's it going?
Awesome.
Hi.
So we're talking about, I take it, money in step one?
No.
Or
we're just talking about surrender.
Surrender. That's a good one. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And I'm learning that, but I'm learning how to do it, and I'm learning how how to trust in my higher power. And when I veer away from God's will and I start getting into my will, well, then I'm not surrendering. And like something that I learned at a big book study was like, find God's will. And you just got to ask these three: is it selfish? Will it hurt anyone? Will it help others? Ask those questions, and as long as you can answer them honestly, you've got God's will going for you. And if you don't, then it's just a lesson that you got to learn, and it's something that I'm learning. To surrender, it's hard for me now.
So how I started this
years, because
how I started this was like, well, sharing with who might be watching that for most of my addict and alcoholic friends, letting go of management of our life is not optional. If we're going to live, we have to let go of management of our lives, and because the first step in our program is that my life is unmanageable, and we come to accept that our life is unmanageable, and that we have to, if we're going to survive, we're going to live, we're going to prosper, we're going to have an amazing life, we have, it's a kind of a do or die for us. But lots of folks that may watch this are not alcoholics or addicts, and so many of us have been programmed so deeply that we can just become better managers and our life will be more full. And so in talking to those people, what you and I call the normies, because many of them are on a spiritual path and haven't recognized that the first thing that they, almost the very first thing that they need to nail down is that they can't, they're working with a poor set of tools if it's just the intuition or just the conditioning of their own mind, or the teachings that it doesn't work in the way that it could work. For us to live in our full potential, I had a teacher years ago that said always live in the moment, be here now. And I didn't understand then what was here now. And then I began to understand that, okay, God is here now. God is in the moment. God is right now. And then this last few months, I'm experiencing that in each moment. So to circle back and to tell folks, hey, look, here's where it begins. We need to be at a place where we can say, even though I've had moderate success in my life, not me, but maybe you, or if somebody's watching who isn't in recovery, had moderate success, maybe, it looks like things are working. Is it really working in your full potential? Are you really living the bliss, happy, joyous, and free, or are we living in a life of shoulds, a life based on winning and losing, a life based on good and bad, a life where we're judging others, a life where we're in complaint, so if we're living in those things, then we're living in the mind. We're not living in connection with God or with spirit, and so the stuff that you and I've spent years studying, lots of people don't have a language for it, so how do I get into this moment? What is it? And my experience is that surrendering what we think we know, letting go of concepts and ideas about who we are, even if it's just for a few minutes, allows us to see what's always been there. We're not going to create God. God's already there. It's just that we can't see him or feel him or experience this moment because we're so caught up in our ideas of what he should look like, or mine says yes, but I want to be there too. And so we surrender mind, we surrender management, and as we surrender mind, the sunlight of the spirit shines in. It's like always been there, but the clouds move, the fog lifts, and it's there. We're in it. It is now, and so that's the message that I'm carrying here, and it's the one that you and I know that we, at one level or another, have to live just to survive, just not to be in jail, not to die like so many of our friends are dying right now from overdoses, and and as life gets turned upside down for lots of people, it's hard for them to manage. They can't manage, and so it's a great time actually on our planet, because with what's going on, a lot of people's world has been shook up, and it's going to get even more shook up, and I believe a lot of people are going to be looking for another answer. When they thought that marrying the right person would be the answer, or having 3 kids would be the answer, or making X amount of dollars would be the answer, or getting in great shape would be the answer, or having a closet full of clothes. And now they're recognizing that, holy shit, that isn't the answer. Anyway, that's my thought.
Isn't the answer altruism? If we want to boil down our program and design for a living, is just about living on that altruistic plane constantly.
Well, that is part of it, but that's a result of the connection with God. That isn't the connection. That takes us out of ourself. That is a vehicle to be out of selfishness and self-centeredness. When I'm thinking of helping others, I'm not thinking about me, in a sense. So yeah, altruistic, giving back altruistically without looking for anything in return is a technique, if you will, out of selfishness and self-centeredness. And so yes, and as soon as we're out of selfishness and self-centeredness, we're in the presence of God. As that falls away, God is already there. We don't have to look for it, him, her, them, that, because it's there. And so,
Whatever.
Yeah. Thoughts, Adrian?
I was just thinking, there's this expression called seva, so service, and I was going to Google if it's one of the paths in yoga or something like that. But there's the expression of karma yoga. So doing good deeds, and it's one of the spiritual paths, or it's part of the spiritual path for some beings particularly. And Dee is calling it altruism and having an altruistic mind. And yeah, I think that going that path will shift the focus away from this identity obsession with oneself, and but I think through the acts themselves, one does experience then that love that one is seeking also.
Yeah, that's comment on that. That's how my connection with my higher power, God. I had to learn how to be, because through doing all those selfless acts, I found God. I found a piece of myself. I found love in a way that I wasn't doing before. That's how I got my connection with God anyway. It was just when I studied the book and looked up the definition of that word, it all just kind of hit me. It was like, well, it's not about me. It can't be about me. Life can't be about me. It's got to be about how I can better the world. I don't know. That's what I got from it.
So what do you find separates you from that understanding on the daily, let's say? Because I mean, if you continuously do that, then you'll be very happy, no?
Yeah, and I'm getting there. Like I'm learning to live with self and learning to love and appreciate who I am and what I have to offer, because my experiences can benefit others. And it's funny because the stuff that I've experienced, I can help other people out with, or I can give them an idea. And as long as I'm willing to help, I'm okay. I have to have that constant willingness to help, and as long as I keep in contact with my higher power and remind myself every morning, like, hey, do today. And it's like prayers and meditation, a form of meditation, because I say the 3 same prayers every morning, and it's before I leave my bedroom. I have to say them, and it's just in me, like, hey, I can't be living in here. I gotta live out there today. That tomorrow might be better. Well, I don't got to worry about that. I just got to worry about what's in front of me, and as long as I keep focused on that, I'm all right.
It's interesting that when you say about not being able to live in here, and because in here often is I think you're referring to our crazy mind, and which isn't always crazy, but it can get crazy, and yet when we're living in love or in the moment or beyond the mind, it's also in here. But it's out there as well, because it's not just here. It seems to be perceived here, but it's more than here. It includes here. So it isn't when we're looking outside to serve, that's also in this oneness that is God. It's all in this one package, which we were part of. We're not separate from the service. We're not separate from the love. We're not separate even from my crazy mind. In a way,
Yeah.
is all part of the same oneness, in the same moment, the same, which is interesting because one of the things that shifted for me, Adrian and V and Trevor, is that I'm more entertained by my crazy mind than I've ever been. Do you know what I mean? It's like when thinking comes up, and because the mind will think, oh, it especially I'm working now at this. I have like a job, and there's stuff going on, and there's all kinds of personalities, and I'm in the middle of all these personalities at this treatment center. Mind has, mind gets going, and I laugh at it, because mind often makes up stories that have me losing something, face, position, whatever, and because that's the way it's geared, and so I find it more entertaining. I like, oh, look at that, because it's just part of the old groove, and if I buy into it, then I can drop further down into fear and all kinds of stuff, and it's nice to be in a place where I just find it more entertaining now than serious, and it's like, oh wow, because I think I took it so seriously for so long, my thinking, like it knew. I used to think it knew. It doesn't know anything. It pretends it knows. You guys, just so that we can call this a meditation group, that let's do like a 5-minute meditation and then come back to this conversation. And for those of you that are watching us on Facebook and YouTube, and there is some on both channels right now, which is kind of cool. Meditate with us. And if you have any thoughts or questions, you can actually join us on, especially if you're on Facebook, we put the link on Facebook. You can join us here if you'd like, if you'd just like to come on for a couple of minutes and share a little bit of your own experience around awakening, or, why would you want to awaken? What does it look like? Oh, and then I have a story to tell about depression when we come back. Just an amazing little piece I saw the other day with Muji working with a guy who was certain that he could be awake if it weren't for his depression. And I just want to share with you what happened and how, well, I won't say anymore. So let's sit for a couple of minutes and just drop in to nothingness. It's 8 o'clock. Let's just sit for about 6 or 7 or 8 minutes. You guys, you just find a comfortable spot to sit, your back straight, if possible. Just have your head on top of your neck. Imagine there's just string just holding the top of your head. So it keeps it just sitting straight on your shoulders. And just allow your shoulders to drop a little bit. Comfortable in your body. Take some breaths. Just feel the breath in your lungs. Beautiful. I have the windows open. Just smells so nice here in my room. It's beautiful. Just feel your body. Remember, you are not your body. You're actually in your body. You're part of your body. You're traveling. It's your vehicle. It doesn't think. It's a beautiful vehicle. Be grateful for your body. When you're sitting, and just watch your mind. Thoughts came up. Just recognize that they're not you. They just came out of like this huge reservoir of thinking. You can watch it, or you can just sit quietly. Just come back slowly and gently, easily. Just want to mention that deep down inside of every man, woman, and child, there's a fundamental belief in the presence of, or the existence of, a higher power of God. Crazy mind, in a way, is all part of the same oneness, the higher power. Mm-hmm. And what keeps us from experiencing that is our attachment to this, our attachment to our story. We're often attached to our story by fear. What will we become if we're not our story? For many of us, our story is maybe we have a victim story as a woman. Maybe we have a victim story as a man. Maybe we have a victim story as a cultural group of people. And but stories stories and our attachment to stories actually take us out of the moment, take us out of our connection. And it's very subtle. It's very subtle. It's hard not to believe it to be true. Many of us have had, came from troubled situations in our homes, and so we hold on to that story, and that's who we become, and we harden up in that story. We say, "Don't you know who I am? I was abused as a child," and we hold on to that, and it takes us, and we live in that, not now. And or I have a physical illness. We live in that physical illness. We identify with our situation. I'm a divorcee. I'm whatever. I'm single. I'm married. I'm divorced. I'm widowed. I met a fellow today, a friend of mine today, and his wife had died in April. And he was so, in the story. I, of course, offered condolences and spent some time with him. And it turned out it had been a long process of the dying, but still, it was now his identity. And that's what we do. And if we don't see that, if nobody points that out to us, if we don't recognize that we're holding on to a story often, then we stay in it. And in the story is not a connection with God, because we're not here. Now, for many of us, if we use our story as a story of how we connected, that's different. We can see how our story can benefit others because we can relate to them. If you're a cancer survivor It's a story, I know, but you can then, talk to people who are going through that and say, and comfort them and help them to move past their story, and and uh, and we get to create actually in life what our story is, often over and over again. Maybe your story is, I'm not very good with money, and we just create that story over and over again. Or I'm not good in relationships, or you can't trust men, or you can't trust women. It's all a story, it's all conditioning. And so you'll notice, though, there's much less left to talk about as we drop our story, because, we're not telling our story anymore, our old story, for the sake of sharing with people who we are. If we tell our old story, it's only to help, if possible. We become better listeners. And so I wanted to tell a story, actually, about how Mooji was working with a fella who stood up in group. And it would have been in Rishikesh, I think, and there was several hundred people there. I don't know, Adrian, how many people would have been in Rishikesh? 700, 800?
Probably about like that, or 1,000 people maybe in the hall.
Yes. And so this man stood up, and it was obviously an educated man who had been a long time on the path. The path is a story, by the way. and the being on the path actually keeps us from being here now, because we're on the path to somewhere. And so anyway, he'd been a long time, and he said, he'd been with many teachers, and he'd done a lot of studying, and he really was earnestly seeking this connection, this oneness, this, but that depression had kept him from his goal. And Mooji was so great. He said, "Oh, depression. I don't know much about depression. Tell me." and this man started to talk about his depression, and like it was a bit of a possession, It was it was his story. He was talking about, and actually, it was Mooji asked him to come to the front and sit, close to him, and he talked about his depression and how the state that he'd gone into with his depression would keep him from connecting with the one, or being in the wholeness of the moment. And so Mooji took him right into his depression. He said, "Well, tell me about it. Where does depression live in you?" And this fellow just dropped into it. And the further he dropped into talking about it and explaining it, the more he seemed to recognize that it wasn't anything. It was an idea, and it had. So he used the depression as a vehicle to the moment. Do you know what I mean, Adrian? He used the idea of depression and this man's experience of depression to bring him into the fullness of the moment, of the oneness, including the depression. He didn't exclude it. He didn't say, "Well, leave the depression at the door." He included it, and it was an amazing. All of a sudden, the man had started to laugh, and that laugh, Adrian, and he started to laugh, and he was hilarious. He got it. He saw that he wasn't separate. There was no separation, and this oneness that we're in includes all of it. as long as we're not attached to something in it, which will then take us out of it. And anyway, it was just, I don't know if I was able to explain that well, but
I think you're doing some translating into your own language,
of course.
you know, and your own concepts. You know, I think beings who are sitting with Mooji, you know, in terms of that language, the intention is to recognize the self-realization, self-recognition, to recognize one's own natural state. And, you know, from the perspective of obstacles, as saying like, oh, well, I have this condition and this is the obstacle that separates me from this recognition. To see that it's only the mind that says these things, and the belief in that idea then becomes an obstacle.
Yes, and I don't know if you were with us, but you know, I went over a whole list of those. You know, whether it's whatever the attachment is to our story, you know, maybe.
But I mean, ultimately, in the realization, the biggest story is the I.
Yes.
So to say, oh, my attachment to my story, there's too much I. Never mind the story.
Well, yeah, the story's at one level, the I is at even closer.
The belief in this, my story, I need to drop my story. It's like, just drop yourself. Just,
And then
because you can, there'll be a million stories, and a million times you have to say, oh, now I have to drop this story, now I have to drop that story.
Yes. Yep.
Totally mine.
But I have this idea, and I might be full of poop on this, that that's almost in this conversation, and maybe I'm just not comfortable with that enough yet to recognize that, you know, so I word it like I can't, there's no management of my own life. So it is me that needs to get out of the road, or me that isn't, that's keeping me from being.
That you think needs to get out of the road doesn't exist.
Yes, I know. But to me, it's double talk. Like when you're saying that,
Yes.
It's difficult for me.
Yes, I understand. Very
difficult.
Because of the identity.
And
so the belief is very strong in the reality of the one who is on the road and who's needing to get out of you know, who needs to drop the story. The belief in that one is still very, very strong. But with the depression guy, it was like, drop the belief in that one.
Yes, who has the depression?
That's right. Who has the depression? Examine. See if you can find that one.
Yes.
So this is where then the relief comes. To the realization, it's like, oh, story about depression, sensation of depression, and so on. Yes, they may all be there, but who's having them? I can't find that one. And if that one doesn't exist, then already the pressure is off to make such a big deal out of sensations and emotions, and then depression can be there. But it will lose its power, its hypnotic power, and it's also its power to create that story of the one who is depressed.
Because the one who is depressed is actually strengthened by the depression.
That's right, and by that identity. Yes. And it will keep rehearsing it, and then even if the sun is shining and life is good, there's strong attachment now because an identity has built around the depressed person,
Sure.
and it's
Yes.
unexamined. And the psychologist is not calling that into question. He'll treat the person. The psychologist will treat the person.
Yes,
But
of
Moody
course.
does not treat the person.
No. No, he asks, I mean, the pointing is past the person.
Yes, it's past the person. It's the foundation of his teachings and pointings is self-inquiry.
I don't get the term self-inquiry. It seems to me that you're then again talking about the person.
Exactly. The mind that would inquire into it is looking for an objective self, the person inside the person.
So who are you speaking of when you speak of self-inquiry?
The self-inquiry is the inquiry into what is the I? What do I find when I really look? What? Because right away the mind says, well, it's obvious. Me as a person, I, Adrian,
Yeah,
David.
but what I find when I really look, I can't speak about.
That's right.
And so then
But
we might as well
still
not
look.
do this.
Somehow
I
something
don't
still
I don't know how to do this and not speak about it. Do you know what I mean? It seems all I can talk about here is the symptoms of the mind, of the
Yes,
'cause
but I mean,
I don't know how to
during
talk about when I lay sometimes
I understand.
and I disappear,
Right.
you know,
Because when you say when I disappear, you're still there.
well, this disappears. Of course I'm still here. And yet,
But I mean, like the identity is still there. The one who says, well, when I disappear, when I go there, when I'm in that space, that's person speaking. Only person speaks like this.
so then there's nothing to say about the other.
Well, Mooji seems to say a lot.
He does. And he seems, though, to speak often about, well, it's fun because he uses people all the time, because he can't really talk about it.
He addresses the concern of the mind.
Yes. And so it makes it easier to talk about what's not there, or where the person is
Absolutely. But I think even if he has a monologue,
yes,
even when he has a monologue, he still speaks as that. He doesn't switch into person speculating about that state. And so the shift is just subtle.
I know.
And it's just remaining in the full seeing of it and not jumping out of it in order to claim a position so that one can now make certain claims about it where I just jumped from.
It's interesting. This afternoon, I had there was this experience, and that's what came was, wow, that's just right there,
Yes.
and it was right there, and yet to come and sit in front to do this, well, I'm just going to let it be. I think that it's moving.
Good.
I think it's moving.
It's good. But this is also a good conversation to have.
Yes, of course, and I'm game.
Yeah, because it is through these gyrations that clarity arises. Because just speculating or remembering past things and playing through past things like this, that they've already been done. That movie has already played. But in this moment, these gyrations can help for clarity. And remembering that this is not some kind of future speculation. It's not the spirituality we're going to do when when tonight is over, or in some other moment, we're getting ready for some other moment where we'll be in the moment.
Well, it isn't even spirituality.
You can say that. You can say that in the direct experience, that falls away.
Yes.
That's right.
It isn't even God in my old idea of God.
Right. You cannot comment on that like that. That's still not, that's conjecture afterwards in some way.
Say that again?
Everything.
Meaning God is just now a way to describe the undescribable.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and because it's so vast and so rich and so everything, then that seems to be the best word. No?
Yeah. I
Because
have,
it's not
there is
missing.
in this system, in this mind, in this, there's some tweaks that come up around this God thing. They're subtle, but they're, you can't talk like that. There's a conditioning around how I can and cannot speak about God. And I watch the conditioning, and it kind of corrals me a little bit in the conversation. Do you know it's still there? And
Yes. I think in some ways you're mixing different points of views.
yes,
One moment you're kind of more like a Christian preacher, and then the next moment you're more like a Buddhist monk, and then the next moment you're maybe more like an Advaita student. You're mixing it all a little bit together, like this, and then you confuse yourself almost, because from one perspective, then you're more on the lines of a David Hawkins who speaks of God and maybe get a reverence to it and so on, and then next moment you're sinking into the oneness of that self-awareness, which you would maybe have called awakening or something like that, in that direct experience, and so on. And it is fine to do that. It's fine to do that, of course. Because so a lot of it is just semantics. You one moment you say love, and the next moment you say God, and then the next person says, "Well, what's the difference?" And you say, "There's none." It's like so, and I'm just saying that because you're bringing up Mooji, no? In terms of because Mooji is very clear in his pointings, like in terms of the self-inquiry and the direct seeing. And I don't know, are you familiar at all with that? Is it D? Are you familiar at all with sort of what should I say? The spiritual lines of Hinduism and or Buddhism?
I have an idea, and
that's a bit different for you.
I get it. Like it's all about, anyway, from what I've perceived, is just about what you put out in the world and making it. I did a little bit of research on different religions, like Buddhism and Hinduism, and for me, it's just about the kind of energy that I put out. And as long as I focus on putting out good energy, and I focus on making the world a better place via listening to someone, holding a door open, or getting my education so I can go help people. It's as long as I'm focused on that kind of energy, I stay out of that negative self.
Yes.
Because like there's I can't talk about myself in like that third person, I guess, anymore, because I am just everything. I'm bad and good. And as long as I'm focused on the good and the good that I can do, then I'm okay.
Yes. So some of those teachings, they go beyond this seeing that you're everything. Okay. They also come to the place where you recognize that you're none of those things.
Yeah. I am.
That it's almost
I
like
am
you're
a
beyond all of that on some level too.
and what I put out in the universe. And as long as I remember that,
So in We Agnostics, it says, it asks us a question. It says, God either is or he isn't. Either he's everything or he's nothing. And when we drop into the depth of either he's everything or he's nothing, then what is everything? Everything doesn't exclude us. Everything includes us, actually. And the mind wants to say he's everything outside of us, but everything is everything. It's a beautiful statement, which is very Buddhist, if you will. Right in our in the chapter We Agnostics in the book, and the Alpha and the Omega, when it talks about that in our teaching, again, that's the beginning and the end, and what we're talking about is the access of that, not through trying to get that, but through letting go of the separation, including the self, the idea of me. I'm in this moment, I'm actually nothing. I'm just an idea of myself, which is always moving. There is nothing here except this concept, continue evolving concept of me. And so, but mind wants to grasp onto, yeah, but I'm this, yeah, but I'm that, yeah, and if I'm in part of the Alpha and the Omega, then it's not, I'm not fixed in any stationary space, or I'm not going into any one place. Just the idea that I'm not who I think I am is very part of our teaching in the 12 steps, because we recognize that fear and selfishness and self-centeredness kept us separate from the one, from Alpha and the Omega, the everything or nothing. And those are, Adrian, those are words that are used in our 12-step teaching, which has a very expanded view of.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really makes me think of the way my grandma had raised me in some of her teachings. Well, my grandma was in residential school, but she was also raised traditionally, and something that I've held on to, and I've noticed people notice that in me, is that my grandma told me no matter how ugly the world is, I have to be better than the ugliness around me. And it ties into the fellowship, the altruistic plane, the design for living.
Can I ask you a question? Who says ugly?
Well, I'm just saying, referring to as ugly, negative.
But always that's a judgment.
Yeah, you're right, and it's
and it, as soon as we judge, we're locked into that space. We're locked into that right or wrong, good or bad, into the dualistic world, and which then doesn't allow us to flow.
No, because ugly is ugly. There is no right or wrong in ugly. It's just an ugly situation. It's just ugly. But ugly is beautiful because you can find beauty in ugly. Like you can find beauty in a car accident because maybe the people that were in the accident, maybe the family, like maybe it brings the family together. You got to find beauty in the ugly.
All right. I just suggesting that there's judgment.
No. I get what you're saying. I think I'm using ugly because I'd rather say right or ugly than right or wrong. You know,
Well, what's
because
judgment if it isn't right or wrong?
I can't really say there is no right or wrong because there is right and wrong. It's
Is
just
there?
there's wrong in other people's eyes and there's wrong in my eyes. Everyone has a different idea of wrong. So to say there is no right or wrong is
So what about acceptance is the answer to all my problems today? When I think that something's right or wrong in God's universe, I'm saying I know better than God. I'm actually uh, I put myself up as God, and I'm saying, okay, this isn't right, and this is wrong, and this is, Dr. Paul's writing in 449 or 416, I think it is now in the book, where it talks about acceptance being the answer to all my problems. And I accept life as being exactly how life is supposed to be in this moment, then I'm free.
yeah.
I'm totally free. Then there's no judgment in that acceptance. There's just freedom. It's like, wow.
I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and that's the mantra that I tell myself
But then
almost
so is
hourly.
everybody else. Then so is everybody else. But what happens for me, and maybe for you, and maybe for many of us, is that we are quick to judge. But our judgment comes from our own conditioning. This is wrong and this is right. And but we're seeing such a small piece of the pie. We're making judgments based on, and with such, small information. My conditioning, if it's, came from my middle class white upbringing in New Brunswick, you know, um, post Second World War, da 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 da. That was all. That's the conditioning that was put into this piece of software, and so I could be stuck there forever and miserable as hell.
That's the beauty of the altruism in our program because
So who do you help?
that
Who do you help?
whoever's in front of me.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the addict. It doesn't have to be, the still suffering. It just has to be whoever needs help. And it does. They don't even need to have help. Maybe I need to help myself and better myself so I can help other people. I can
Yes.
better myself by getting an education and
Mhm.
getting in a field of work where I can help people, not just addictions or psychology, but other ways that I could help people. I could, there are endless ways of helping people.
Yeah.
It was me that was preventing myself from helping people, and I don't need to. I don't go out and find people to help. I just do what's in front of me, and then when people ask me for help, I help them because
Okay.
that's what the program's about. Like I don't. I go on about living my life and trying to better myself.
Yeah.
But when someone asks me for help, I have to be able to help them. And if I can't, I got to do the best that I can and say that I did.
Well,
But
and
I've
I
also
think that you're
learned,
on a great path. I'm not suggesting that that's not a great path. I'm really not. I What I'm trying to give here, and I think it's good for all of us, is that this and what I'm aiming for myself, if you will, is to take myself out of the equation, to quit running the show from my perception, to take me out of the equation, to not, you know, to really be a vehicle of God's love, if you will, to take myself out of the equation, and um, because I'm my history has taught me that I fuck things up, I drop into fear. I can, in my extreme, my worst case scenario, I'm I'm in fear. And my best case scenario to date is in I can have a reasonably high level of love and service. And yet I think that that's still me in the play, and what Adrian's saying is that there's the possibility to let go of me. And
I think that it's really interesting because when I hear both of you speak, I feel
yes,
like you're saying both the same thing.
Yeah, we are. I'm just explaining it in my language, and he's explaining it in his.
And I think like the sense of judgment,
yes,
what's good or bad. I don't think we need to go on war with that, because we have a body, and we're always in this state of discernment of good and bad. Even David, as you explained it, you said you made the distinction between at your worst and at your best kind of thing. And I think it's easy to get too much into the idea of trying to want to see the world from a completely neutral place. Because more important, I think it's to pay attention who has that desire. Who has the desire to live without judgment? Is that one real? Or is that maybe a bit of a spiritual ego or something like that? Or maybe it's the part of the person who believes, well, if I could live without judgment, then I would be free. But is there still the person behind that?
in this moment, yes.
And so then there's the opportunity to release that one, and then it becomes nothing.
Wouldn't it just be about accepting judgment then? Because judgment's always going to happen, whether I judge or not judge. People are always going to judge. I just got to let that go. Let them go and not worry about that. That's what you're getting at. Okay.
Sitting on it, not getting caught in it.
That's
yes. And the moment we do that, it loses its power, and the story dies that was built upon that judgment.
That's just fear.
Fear naturally comes, and then fear takes certain shapes.
I think I should have reworded it what I was stating. Instead of stating that I need to make the world a better place, I just need to continue to keep the world a good place because I'm a good person. And as long as I continue to put that energy out, I don't have to live in that fear.
And I would say you don't even have to. It's your great opportunity.
I just got to continue to being me.
Yes. Yeah. Just and really come into the joy of that. See that it's your great opportunity. Rather than it's just an opportunity to see it a bit different, rather than from the angle of, the heavy person who in the past wanted to be negative now has to become a good person. And David speaks a lot about this. Now has to become a good person. No, actually, you just have to relax into yourself and do what comes so naturally to you and brings you such natural joy, which is to when things come up, yes. And then you feel good with yourself, you feel good with the world. The mind doesn't get many stories to grasp onto, guilt and self-reprimand and judgment and all that stuff. It just you're kind of walking in clean air,
Yeah, it helps me sleep at night.
Yes. And the world may not always be conspiring with you to help you with that particularly. So sometimes you may have to, push through or something like that, but it's nothing really.
As long as I remember to continue to be a good person. This is calm. That's where I get my serenity.
Yes.
Is I remember I'm putting out this me. I'm putting me out. And as long as I'm putting me out in that form, there's no chaos. It's just empty. I can
Yes.
sit and I can focus on my breathing. I can, like when we were meditating, I could feel the connection with all of us. It was like you guys were here and you guys weren't there. And I know there are other people there and I could feel that energy. And as long as I remember that I am a good person and I continue that, I can stay connected and I keep this clear.
This memory will go from a mental memory much more in just a deep knowingness, a deep understanding of that without even the words.
So I just got to continue to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so natural.
I have a kind of a fundamental, I have a, spent the last 40 years trying to do what you're talking about. I can't. I cannot remember to be. I cannot run the show. I have to get out of the road. There can't be a me in the picture. And I'm not exactly sure how to do that on a continuous basis, but I know that I'm ill-advising people. And I don't know where to draw the line, Adrian. When I give people new strategies or new techniques for being in the planet, it's just like, you know, I don't believe in it anymore. I just don't believe it anymore. I think that, I mean, it can be helpful, but we're just teaching people new strategies or new techniques, and there's something much bigger beyond that.
Yes.
It sounds like you're complicating it, because what I tell people when they want to get into this, I tell them to go grab a grocery bag and just go pick up garbage.
Well,
go pick up some garbage.
That's okay. It just didn't work for me. And I hear what you're saying, because I always wanted to get something from doing that.
Yes, I think that's what the difference
That's
with
the problem.
is he is not there picking up garbage.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. And maybe maybe you guys have just reached a level that I have not seen. I just am sharing with you that
I think what he's talking about is selfless service.
I hear that. And even in that, my mind is still there.
Yes, so selfless means the I, the me, the ego mind is less, not there.
I hear you. Yeah. So I haven't been able to really, maybe I can do that. Maybe I have done that. Maybe I'm not remembering.
Can't do that.
No. All right.
Can't.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here.
Maybe I can do that. That one cannot do that.
Then talk about you then for a minute, Adrian. I hear you giving advice, but I'd like to hear how that works for you, because I don't get it. I just don't get it. I think it's bullshit, actually. And I think that what we're talking about something. Where is it that it lives in you?
What lives?
Well, you're talking about this selfless service. You're talking about this, what is it how is it fit for you in your life? If you were going to sit and talk to somebody from your experience, where is it that it fits for you in this, because I don't get it. I hear you talking about it, and I hear you, correcting me on it, and I'm just like a neophyte in this thing. And I don't think if I you know, if I go out and pick up garbage, that it's going to make that's the thing for me. That's not my line. That's not where I, you
I
know,
understand. I
What
understand.
what I'm trying to get at though, Dave, is do it by yourself at night where no one can see you, no one will know
I
except
understand. I'm
you.
not interested in that though. I hear what you're saying, and that's okay. I'm just not interested in that right now. And maybe I'm just tired from working the last 3 days at that madhouse, but I'm just, you know, I don't get, Adrian, I'm asking you, you know,
Right.
what is it that we're talking about? Something that's maybe the same as what V is saying, selfless service in that moment. Yes, when I'm working with newcomers in the 12-step program, that's where I feel it. I'm there or I'm not there. I'm really with them in
Yes.
in a selfless way, and I feel it then. It's not picking
Yes.
up garbage on the street, but I feel
Yeah.
it then.
No, I do that for you.
I'm there, and um and it comes to me sometimes when I'm just by myself and there's nothing in it, and I feel like I've disappeared, and it's right there, and it's so elusive sometimes. It's so close and yet it's so far, and so I don't want to back up 40 years and here and talk about new strategies for being one with God, or being or experiencing the presence of God, or being not present myself, or not here.
But even the one who has that desire is a suspect, David.
Well, of course he's suspect, and that's the one that's tormented me my whole goddamn life. Of course he's suspect, but I haven't been able to kick him out.
Right. But behind that one is the one who is aware that that one is playing.
Say again?
Behind that one, yes, the suspect one, is the one who's not partaking in this conversation.
I know, the second bird. I finally figured out the second bird. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Second bird. Put your attention to that one.
And yet, and I do, of course. I mean, not so easy when I'm in conversation like this, and we're public, but yes, and
Right. So in public, the attention wants to be goes into first bird, who now talks about second bird. And any given moment that can shift again. And that's all. And that's not a that's still a strategy in a way,
yes, it is.
but it's a very useful one. Because the habit of being in first bird position is so strong.
Yes, it is. And
Yes.
yes. Why don't you? I don't feel like doing this. Do you want us to explain first bird, second bird?
Yes. So basically, the analogy is watching a bird building a nest on a branch, and now one can picture the one bird weaving the straws together and creating this beautiful nest, and on a second branch is a second bird. That bird is simply aware that there's another bird building a nest and flying around and being busy. And these birds represent the states of mind. In the first state, the first bird position, so to say, the mind is involved with the doing and with the thinking and the thought of, I am this bird building this nest, or maybe in context to our conversation, I'm this person trying to get from A to B, I'm on this spiritual path, and so on. Yes? So this would be the first bird. Yet, simultaneously, at the same time, one can become aware that there is an awareness that this is all happening. This is now the second bird position. And when one really looks at that second bird and looks at its nature, one notices that bird doesn't fly around. that bird doesn't partake in the nest making. It is simply noticing how this nest is being built by the first bird. So this is now one observes one's own minds and feelings, sensations, reactions, responses, interests, all these things. So one becomes really recognizes there's a stiller place, a quieter place. And often, David, you described it as dropping in. So closing your eyes and you drop into this observing mode and you're noticing the stillness there. Am I right in saying that, David?
Yes, yeah. The observer, for sure, yeah.
The observer. So one then comes into this position of going, oh, okay, this is all just observable. And even my opinions are observable. Even my positionality is observable. And maybe in the context of what we were just talking about, even my judgments are observable, or my fear of judgment is observable, or my for or againstness of judgment, or that I should not, all of this is observable.
Yeah,
And
our ideas, our concepts. In the 12-step program, we call it very simply, we say we pause.
Yes.
When agitated or upset or, frustrated or angry, we pause. And so just to be the observer, to say, oh, okay.
Can I make an observation? Why are you so focused on your teacher?
Which one?
Dave. That was my problem before I found my whatever it is I have. I was so focused on finding like a medicine man, an Aboriginal medicine man to teach me something, but
can I answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that if I just muck around in my own bowl, I'm going to stay mucking around in my own bowl. And right now on the planet with YouTube and Audible, and there's so much available to help us to see ourselves. And so I found this teacher. I mean, we all have a teacher. You and I share a teacher. His name is Bill Wilson. And
I'm not talking about those teachers.
Oh, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about your everyday teachers, the ones that are in front of you, the lessons that you learn from the people that you work with, from the interacting with people at Tim Hortons.
Well, so what's your question?
You're so focused on your one teacher that you're losing sight of all the other teachers.
Well, don't make a judgment on that.
That's just what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, but you're seeing a very small snippet of my life here in front of you on this screen. I mean, I'm experiencing amazing things working at a treatment center that I'm seeing myself in dozens of fellas on a daily basis when I'm there. So no, I'm in the thick of it, and I couldn't possibly be there and not have them all be my teacher.
I'm not even talking about the treatment center, though. I'm talking about everywhere else, everything. If God is everything, then we got to learn from everything, not just from our fellow addicts, but from everyone in our lives. My nieces and nephews teach me stuff, and I only talk to them for maybe like an hour a week on the phone. And and I got to be open to them teaching me stuff about myself.
So who are you talking about, though, when you ask that question of me?
You're so focused on learning from one person that you're not learning from everything else.
No, but how can you know that?
You're saying it. You're showing it. It's showing in your body language and how you're talking and how you just want to learn from certain teachings. And I mean, I understand the structure, but if you're saying that God is everything or God is nothing, then you got to learn from everything.
Well, I appreciate that. V, I hear what you're saying, and thank you. I don't know exactly what to do with it, but I hear what you're saying, and that's good advice.
I just know for me, I had to stop focusing on finding Geronimo and Sitting Bull to teach me things when I had everything in front of me.
Hmm.
Everything is in front of you.
Thank you. All right.
You can see it,
Okay.
or you're choosing not to. I
So how
believe
is that
you can.
working for you? How, I don't understand. Share with me your personal experience. Instead of telling me what you think I should do, how is that working, in your personal experience? I'm not sure how, first of all, I'm not sure how you see that in me, because I don't know that I see it in me, but, you know, I, I think that I'm every moment as conscious as I possibly can be to see what's happening in each moment. But I think that learning is in a way bullshit. I think that learning is in a way bullshit. Learning is so that we can be better in the next occasion. And I'm not wanting to learn anymore. I'm done the learning. What I'm more interested in getting out of the way so I can be here for the experience. Learning is an old conditioned belief. It's like I'm done with it. You know, and I don't hardly even read books anymore, because it's like the whole idea, unless we're totally incapacitated, like when we're working with lots of newcomers where they've got to learn how to tie their shoes and how to get started again in life, and how to, to just, to pray in the morning, and how to, but I'm actually looking at unlearning. I don't want to learn. I want to unlearn. I want to get out of the fucking road, V. I'm tired of being in the middle of this.
That's your problem, though. If
No,
you're
it's
in the
not
way,
my
like,
problem, V. It's not.
okay,
Just
so
imagine that you don't.
okay, not your problem. Let me
No.
rephrase that. Can you let me finish, please?
Yeah.
From what I see, when I said that, when I was talking about doing something else selfless, you speak of living in this design for living. What I've learned from living in this design for living, to be completely selfless,
Yes.
is it doesn't matter what I want to do or how I want to learn. I got to go pick up that fucking piece of garbage and not care who's watching me or who's not watching me. I just got to go do it. And if it's not what I want to do, because I don't care about, honestly, I care more about people. I care about you, Dave. I care about Adrian. I care about the homeless people sleeping on the streets. But the world is going to burn, and there's nothing that I can do about it. So what do? I go pick up some garbage. It's not much, but it's making a difference.
Well,
And
of course it's fine.
but you got to let me. No.
Go ahead.
What I'm getting at is, altruistically, it doesn't matter what I want to do. I just need to be good. And you're so focused on the teaching and just picking up garbage. That's not what you want to do. When ultimately you just got to get the fuck out of your head, go make the world a better place, and not care who's watching, and just know that you're making the world a better place. That's it. Make the world a better place and get out of your way. I know you have it.
V, I don't believe there's a world anymore. Forgive me, okay? Just imagine that I'm tired of working in that plane. It doesn't work for me. I'm 65 years old. V, I've been sober for 40 years. Know that I've looked this over from 16 different angles. All right. You can't see where I'm at. It's okay. It's okay. We're at different places in our lives.
Oh, because you say that God is everything, then we're at the same places in our lives.
Well,
if God is everything, then we are everything.
Well,
we are
imagine though that I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm not. I'm just saying that for me, what you're saying doesn't fit right now.
You asked me how I found it. I told you, and then you kind of threw it in my face. Like, I'm saying, dude, this is what I do. This is how I find my clear mind.
I think it's admirable. What do you want from me? V, I can't. What do you want from me? I cannot say it any plainer.
I don't want anything from you.
Okay, so do what
I want to understand and be on the same level, but it sounds like you just really need to grow up and not be so selfish. If you don't agree with me, fine. That's cool, but it sounds like you're a 40-year-old sober person throwing a tantrum. You don't want to do this anymore. Well, that's too bad. We have to keep doing this. That's who
That's
we
your
are.
opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you guys go. You guys have a good night.
I don't know what to say, Adrian. I guess it,
Sometimes the mind meets like that, no?
pardon me.
Sometimes the mind meets like that. It takes positionalities and it starts to get defensive and like this. It plays like that. But it's also seen.
It's what?
It's also seen. It's also seen. It's okay. You know, he felt a certain way and he felt like sharing a certain way. And
Yeah, I'm tired.
I commend him for really, you know, he said what he felt he needed to say, you know. He's like, okay, good for you. Probably something that he would, you know, I think it's cool that he trusts you enough not to be too intimidated to say that to you. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you have some trust.
Yeah. I don't know, buddy. I don't know that I'm qualified to be doing this. You know, I feel quite exposed in the moment, and I don't know that you know,
Just speaking from your heart.
I'm tired.
Yes. So now they're tired. That's fine.
No, I'm
I know
tired. I started out tired. I'm just
Yeah, you were not yawning during the meditation. You sunk into quietness very quickly, also into, yeah, you understand. Maybe you need to take a break. It's also okay.
yeah, maybe I do. Yeah, I guess I do. And now I'm anxious. Hmm.
Maybe this is also important, you know? Maybe this can't be separated out either.
What?
Like, you know, also having this coming up or whatever, you know? Like this. It's okay. Maybe you'll quickly see that it's totally okay.
Quickly see that what?
But it's totally okay. From that very same place of let come whatever comes.
Yes.
Even this. You know, not judge it and say, oh, that was bad or that was undesirable or that was not God. I'll tell you a story. I was in Rishikesh. I think you were there when that really intense lady was beating on. Do you remember her? She was like, she's like, I awoke and I want you to acknowledge me that I awoke, you know? And he just had nothing to say to her. And she ran out cursing him and all that. And then all he said to it, he said, this is how Buddha speaks today.
Okay. Yeah. I feel myself in judgment of myself.
Yes. So this is a great opportunity.
Yeah. I feel myself in judgment of myself and feeling that somehow
Correct.
I should be able to have not reacted, you know.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Surrender it. Again, it's more important to keep coming back to it than trying to visualize it and live it in some future moment,
Yeah.
you know? So this Kim tonight, that's okay. It's also a gift for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those that are watching, thank you.
Well, yes. Yes. Because if you're here not to upkeep an image, then this is what came tonight.
Yes.
If you were here as an image, then this is very inconvenient.
Well, it's both. I mean, I can feel that too, you know.
Yeah.
Of course I
Of
can
course.
feel that.
Right. But this is the least important aspect of you being here, is to keep up an image.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to be a wreck.
You never put it in words that you're here to be this or that. You never put it into words. You never make those claims, right? You're saying this, we're on this together, you always say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's funny in the experience, I'm watching my mind saying, this is getting out of control. This is going.
But you started the night saying, yeah, everything's out of control.
I know, of course. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what was happening in the.
Yes. But it's cool to see that it's nice when you feel you're in control to talk about it when it was out of control. But in the moment of it feeling like it's out of control, the mind says it and then it's believed. Because when it said that, you believed it. I never believed it for 1 second. I don't have a problem.
Fuck. Life. I do have judgment.
And now you're laughing, you see. Now you realize there was nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
the lesson I just got from V was that I do have judgment. I'm judging myself.
Yes, and he could feel it and he called you out on it. Because he also is a teacher. He's also like you said, I'm also part of this big oneness, and I also have my observations. And he's like, why don't you at all? I always listen to you, David. You never listen to me. And you're like, no, listen to me. I can't listen to you. I already know how it goes. 40 years. And he's like, 40 years. And you're still so blah, blah, blah. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes. This is the beauty of having this kind of gathering.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to do it theoretically. Too many people do it all theoretically. They just speak about it. They don't want to have the direct connection with the reality of that beingness and investigating. And that's why I said earlier to you, it's good to get into the gyrations of it. Because that's when the real face reveals of what is untrue. And then it can be discarded and said, oh, done with you, not needed.
Yes. I'm actually asking V to come back, see if he would come back, because it would be nice if he came back.
It would be nice if
Yeah.
Yes. I think he felt he took on too big of a bite, and then he's like, oh, I think I got to go digest that. But I was proud of him. It's, you know, I'm sure not always has he had the courage to, you know, to take a stand and claim his space. You know, that's really good to see.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. In the moment, I don't feel like I have any answers.
Yeah. No questions, no answer. I don't know. it just comes now as this really was this is what was happening in some ways, yet nothing was also happening at the same time.
Hey, Trev.
FG.
Trevor G, come back.
Yeah, I got a little bit nervous, and then so I kind of signed out, and then I noticed that everybody signed out except for you two. So
What do you mean?
kind of getting a little steamy, but I guess
Say again?
it was kind of getting a little heated. I felt so.
How did that feel for you?
I hate confrontation, so so I just kind of like hit escape. Yeah. Escaping situations when it's as quick as a click, it's a mighty tempting. So
I'm glad you came back.
Force myself to come back. So
Well,
Nice to have you.
it's funny. It really brought stuff up for me. I think I'll just watch my own expression, to see my defensiveness, to see, all of that just happened is, in my mind saying, you're just tired, and the mind was squeaking, in the background quite a bit, and most of what came out of me wasn't thought. It was just, some reaction. And yeah. And of course, my mind says you can do better than that. Judgment.
there was a meeting I was thinking about going to at 9:30.
Yes.
I was wondering if I could just
Just take off, bud. What time is it?
9:20. So
Yeah. Have you got anything to share before you leave? You always have some wisdom.
well, it's good to see you guys. V's not here. It was good to see him too. Not really too much today. I learn a lot from everybody, and I think that V had said something really important about, everybody's our teachers, right? And sometimes pain can be the best teacher, whether that's pain of or disagreements or whatever it is, right? It's like, God's everything. So beautiful.
V just messaged. I invited him to come back. He said, I'll join you guys next week.
Cool.
So,
Cool. Okay, well, I'm gonna head off, but it's good to see you guys. Thanks for calling, Adrian. It's nice talking to you yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll try again this week, maybe.
Yeah, I tried calling you today because I forgot to call you back yesterday. So.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
Not too bad. All right.
okay, Trevor, thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoy
thank
your
you guys.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Enjoy.
I'm going to sign us out, but you want to wait for a minute? I'm going to sign us out of the Facebook and YouTube live. And but I think that you and I'll still be here. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Of course, I watched myself wanting everything to be polished, and it was what it was. And thanks for being part of my experience. And yeah,